Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Porter Says podcast. My name is Heath, if you didn't already know that. Thanks so much for tuning in today, tonight, whenever you're watching this. And in this episode, I'm going to be discussing the Percy Jackson films. You know, in honor of Percy Jackson Season 2, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, coming out on Disney Plus in less than a week, about a week from today. It'll be back on the TV screen for all of us Percy Jackson fans to endure and to see the Sea of Monsters truly come to life. Because, as we all know, and I think most fans would say this, is that the Percy Jackson movies weren't, as adaptations, they weren't great Percy Jackson movies. But, to be fair, my history with Percy Jackson, as a whole, I actually saw the films before I'd even read the books. So I had a weird opposite reaction to it where I'd watched the two movies and I saw the Sea of Monsters a few times in theaters. And, then I was like, okay, everybody's hating on this movie and everyone's hating on the Lightning Thief movie. I got to read these books and see what the deal is. Why do people hate them so much? Why do people hate these movies? And I read the books, and I'll be honest, I actually wasn't really a fan of them when I first read them. I know. I just, for some reason, I had this weird reaction where I expected the books to be like the movies, and they just weren't. Whereas people read the books, wanted the movies to be like the books. For years, I just kind of hated on these books and stuff like that. So it wasn't until season 1 was coming to Disney Plus, I was like, alright, I'm going to reread The Lightning Thief and see if I might grow a new appreciation for it. And I did. I really do love the Lightning Thief novel, and I really like the Sea of Monsters novel. I think it's a really great follow-up, a great sequel to The Lightning Thief. So, now the movies. Now, as I said, they're not very well regarded in the Percy Jackson fandom at all. And as I've said already, and I've said it a few times in previous episodes, that, look, these aren't great Percy Jackson movies. They're pretty bad at adaptations. They really don't follow the core story of the books. So that's always a problem. But as movies on their own, as action, fantasy action films, I love those movies. I really love these two movies. I do. I know that's not the most popular opinion, and I feel like a lot of the Percy Jackson fans wouldn't be super happy to hear that. What can you do? What can you do? So I just wanted to do this in honor of the Percy Jackson movies, or the show, coming out, season 2. I've got The Lightning Thief right here on Blu-ray, and of course, just in case you couldn't really see, Sea of Monsters. And I also have the two books right in front of me as well, The Lightning Thief and Sea of Monsters. So, The Lightning Thief movie. What does it do well as an adaptation? I'm strictly kind of talking adaptation here. Look, I do really like the opening to this movie. Is it exposition heavy? Sure, but I don't actually hate that like a lot of fans do. I think people going into this movie not knowing what Percy Jackson is at all, doesn't know anything about Greek mythology, doesn't know who Poseidon is, Zeus, all those types of things, what the lightning bolt is, who stole it, who was accused of stealing it. I think this scene, and a lot of the other scenes that feel very exposition heavy, it's fine for people who have no idea what's going on or what the story is. So, we do get Yancey Academy in this. We get the attack of Mrs. Dodds, who turns into the Fury and tries to get the lightning bolt from Percy. He has no idea what's going on. I think Logan Lerman, Alexander Daddario, and Brandon T. Jackson as Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, I do like their performances. Keep in mind, these obviously characters were aged up. They are now about 16, 17 years old, as opposed to 12 years old like they were in the book. And I do like their performances. I think Logan Lerman does the best that, with what he was given at that time. And so does Alexander Daddario, and so does Brandon T. Jackson. I do think Brandon T. Jackson as Grover while he's pretty funny, and a lot of his jokes do work, there are jokes that don't, and also he's really nothing like Grover from the book. And it does kind of baffle me, like, why did they age these characters up? I think that the Lightning Thief movie does a lot of things pretty well. I like the look of Camp Half-Blood. I think the Lotus Casino is really well done. It's actually I think, in my opinion, it's much better in the movie than it is in the show. And that's actually one of the few things that the movie does do better. It might be one of the only things, actually. And I do like the final battle with Luke and Percy. Look, it's not exactly how it goes down in the book at all. There is a final fight sequence between Luke and Percy in the show, but it's not like it is in the movie. I don't really like the fact that Hades is essentially the villain when it was actually supposed to be Ares who's kind of in cahoots with everything. And that's just a whole other thing that the movie does wrong. It really doesn't keep to the core story overall. It has our trio going for the search of these pearls, Persephone's pearls, who, by the way, is not meant to be in the underworld. Because usually in summer, she's away from this place. She's supposed to be away with her mother. Something along those lines. So I don't know why they could even get that right. That's pretty easy to do. This movie had the potential to really start off a great franchise. Despite, again, the characters being aged up and everything like that, I really do think that if they had just let Rick Riordan, who is the author of these books, who was not a fan of these movies at all, he's been very, very vocal about that. I just really wish they'd let him be more involved, because I don't think he was actually involved at all. I think he was in contact with the creators of the movie, and they didn't really listen to any of his notes that he gave back when they sent him an early draft of the script. There's a whole thing about that. So, as much as I do really love this first movie, and again, unpopular opinion, yes, but I just really wish it stuck close to the book, because there is so much cool stuff in the Lightning Thief novel and in the show that this movie just didn't do. Now we on to Sea of Monsters to discuss that, because, again, I really do like Sea of Monsters quite a bit. But my god, as an adaptation, it's even worse. They bring in all these things from future novels, to my knowledge. I actually haven't read Titan's Curse, Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian, I believe, is the 4th and 5th book. But they bring... Well, I just don't remember it. Or remember any of them. They bring all these plot points and stuff into the Sea of Monsters movie. And it's like, what? They have Kronos, who was like the big main villain they are building up in this series. And it looks like they're still building up in season 2 of the show. And they are slowly starting to build him up in season 1. He just shows up. Like, they're going after the Golden Fleece, which is the only thing that has the power to protect their camp. Because the daughter of Zeus, Thalia, was attacked and actually murdered. But just to, save her life, Zeus makes her into the tree, and she's kind of the barrier that protects the camp. So they got that part right. They got that one of them, at least somewhat of the main story right in this Sea of Monsters film. But they have them going after the Golden Fleece. You've got the introduction of Tyson here, who is a Cyclops, Percy's half-brother. And you have Percy, Annabeth, Grover, and Tyson go out on this adventure. But Grover is not meant to be in this story. He's off searching for Pan. He's on his own little quest right now. And I think Percy and Annabeth go off to find him, because Percy is supposed to be having these dreams about Grover, about he's in trouble and all that stuff. So the movie just completely cuts doesn't even do any of that. You have Clarice, who comes in here, who wasn't in the first movie at all. She's just here. You have Dionysus, Mr. D, not in the first movie, is just here. So it's like the Sea of Monsters movie was trying to retcon stuff and fix things that weren't in the first movie, but somehow it does a worse job. So in the final climactic battle of this movie, you have Kronos, who has finally risen from the Golden Fleece, from this, like, Ark of the Covenant, basically, from Indiana Jones. And he is risen. And there's this whole thing about Percy who has to go and speak to the Oracle at camp and says that he's either destined to save Olympus or destroy it. So he ends up fighting Kronos and takes him down within the same movie. Why did they have Kronos be risen only to destroy him in this? Unless I do not believe he is in his full form in the Sea of Monsters book. To my knowledge, I've only read it, I've read it twice now, and the last time I read it was like at least 2-3 years ago. So I don't know what the creators of the films were thinking. Like, what were they going to do for the future movies? You know? We kind of get the Sea of Monsters here. It looks kind of cool. We get Luke's ship, which is actually... It's a yacht in this film, but it's actually meant to be a massive cruise ship. Yeah, somehow, as an adaptation, it's way worse than the first movie. At least the first movie got more elements of its book counterpart right than this one did, in my opinion. I think actually most fans would say that both movies just didn't get the point of the books at all. That being said, just like the first one, if I'm able to I think I'm one, and I know there probably are a few fans out there, Percy Jackson fans, that I'm able to separate the two films from the first two books. Just mainly talking about the first two books right here. You know, I'm able to separate them and have a really good time watching these two movies. Like, I rewatched them like 2-3 nights ago. I basically kind of had like a nearly a double feature. And I rewatched season 1 of the show. I have a really good time separating these two movies from the two books, and I always end up having a really good time with them. They have, you know, lots of problems, just like as films as well. That they're not the best in the world. They're not, you know, the best directed ever. But overall, I have nostalgia for them. I grew up with them. It was my introduction to Percy Jackson. So I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for these two films. That's my rambling of the Percy Jackson films. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief and Sea of Monsters. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that one. I did have quite a bit of fun talking about Percy Jackson. And let me know down below if you are excited for Season 2, just like I am. December 10th, baby, 2-episode premiere. Cannot wait. I'm ready to hopefully see Sea of Monsters done full-on justice on Disney+. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good rest of your week, and I will catch you guys next time. Take care.